Before I start the video, I just want to say that this Ariel cheese flavor with Guel in it, it's so cheesy, it's gonna make you want to propose. Bad joke, sorry. Soleta Mercury, Bandai's attempt at making a different Gundam main character who's more of a character study than a protagonist. I personally find that to be a very interesting decision, but I'm also aware a lot of people do not like Soleta. Many people, including many older Gundam fans, prefer protagonists who are more traditional, or main characters who are more traditional. Characters who develop through pain, suffering, humiliation. I mean, that formula has always worked. Bandai gave those fans what they wanted in the form of Guel Jeturk. Now, Soleta did have her own suffering arc, but it happened quite late in the series, so people associated the traditional suffering-based development more with Guel. During the first episode of G-Witch, Guel was the most hated character. Almost all my friends didn't like him. They were like, oh, what a douchebag, ooh. But from the very beginning, I already knew that Guel was going to develop. Like, it made a lot of sense story-wise for the writers to develop this character. Early on, you can already see that this character has parent problems, which seems to be like a theme of the show. And because that's a theme of the show, it's not too hard to predict that he's eventually going to address his parent problems. And also the douchebag turning into a really likable character, I mean, that's been a trope for quite a long time, right? And on top of that, even in the earlier part of the show, Bandai already revealed that this guy is going to get 2 mobile suits. Now, if you have a character who has like more than one model kit already at the very beginning, it's safe to assume that they're gonna have to push the marketing of this character because they want his kits to sell, right? If they want his kits to sell, of course they have to make him a likable character. And like earlier on, he already had the Gules de Lanza and the Darrell Balde being marketed as his mobile suits. As early as episode 3, he already had the Darrell Balde, which they teased in episode 2, so yeah. Of course, Guel wouldn't have developed if it weren't for his journey. Like I said a while ago, he's a character who went through a lot of pain, a lot of suffering to develop, which is quite a traditional route. And a lot of the things he experienced are very Gundam. Experiences that were very similar to that of previous Gundam protagonists. I remember before when he was starting out, people were comparing him to Jared, and then people were also saying, oh, he might be like Patrick Cotasur or Eok. And then as the story progressed, the comparisons changed a lot, you know? Some people compared him to Camille or even Benager because of his experiences. I've also actually seen people compare him to Guts from Berserk, which people would follow up with a prediction that he'd be the pilot of Gundam Choisette, which carries a giant sword just like Guts. And while a lot of people think that Guel's character is so good that it feels like he's the main character instead of Soleta, I don't really agree with this. I still see Soleta as the main character, and I think it's still more interesting to see it in that way. I like how they made Bob, the more traditional character, a side character instead of the main character. And the main character we have is someone who is more driven by the plot and doesn't necessarily drive the plot. And I also really like how Guel fell in love with Soleta. I think it makes a lot of sense. Given Guel's personality and the problems he faces, I think it makes sense for him to look up to someone like Soleta. Okay, so to conclude, Bob, followed a more traditional development route, which is something a lot of Gundam fans like, and because of that, he became a fan favorite. Now you're probably asking me, Nichols, who is your favorite character? You know, a lot of people say, oh, my favorite character is Soleta, and some people say, oh, my favorite character is Bob, and then some people say, oh, my favorite character is Miorine. Now, Miorine is my second favorite character. My first favorite character is the entirety of Earth House. I mean, like the original members of Earth House, which, yeah, I just love them so much. I find all of them relatable in different ways. And they're also, in my opinion, the most endearing characters in the show. All they want to do is study and live a good life. They didn't want to be a part of this mess, but they're handling it quite well, I would say. And I think that these characters are good role models to have in life, especially when you're someone who's being treated badly, you know? They're also like a good reflection of how to handle being a loser, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not saying I was a loser in high school. I mean, I was bullied a little bit, but I had a lot of friends. So I'm not a loser. I wasn't a loser. You can't call me a loser.
Also, with the exception of Choo Choo, these characters aren't very merch-driven. So it's safe to say that Bandai doesn't just forcefully develop them just to sell more merch or kits. Not to hate on Bob or anything, I love him, it's just that I think character development feels more legit when it isn't marketing driven.
Anyway, that's about it, guys. You have a great day, and let's all keep looking forward to the progression of G-Witch. Peace out.